This video will provide a short overview of the forms and procedures for filing a civil case to the Minnesota Court of Appeals. Throughout this video, we will be referring to the Minnesota Rules of Appellate Procedure. You can find the rules online using the link on the screen or in the video description. Appealing a case on your own can be challenging. The Minnesota State Law Library has prepared a guide of appellate resources to assist you with the process. You can find this guide using the link on the screen or in the video description. We also offer an appeals self-help clinic on the third Thursday of each month where you can talk to a lawyer about your appeal. You can find more information about this clinic using the link on the screen or in the video description. The term civil case includes a number of different types of cases. In the broadest sense, a civil case is anything that is not a criminal case. For purposes of this video, we will be focusing on civil cases that were decided in a Minnesota district court. This category includes things like divorce, custody, probate, consumer disputes, and evictions. There are 3 forms you will need to file to begin your appeal at the Court of Appeals. They are the Notice of Appeal, Statement of the Case, and the Certificate of Service. You will also need to file a copy of the judge's decision you are appealing. If you do not have a copy of the decision you want to appeal, you can look up your case using Minnesota court records online, available at mncourts.gov under Access Case Records. If you are not able to find your case online, contact the State Law Library. Be aware that you can only appeal certain kinds of decisions made by a district court judge. Rule 103.03 lists the types of judgments and orders you can appeal. If you are not sure whether the decision you want to appeal is appealable under Rule 103.03, you should talk to a lawyer. You also need to be aware of your deadline to appeal. Rule 104.01 gives the time limits for filing and serving your appeal. We will cover filing and service in more detail later in this video. For help calculating your deadline, visit our appeals guide or talk to a lawyer. For many civil cases, you have 60 days to appeal, but there are certain case types that have much shorter deadlines, such as a child protection or eviction case. It is important to figure out your deadline as soon as possible, because Rule 126 says the court can't extend your deadline to appeal. If you aren't sure what your deadline is, you should talk to a lawyer. The court publishes packets of forms for certain types of civil appeals. If you are appealing an eviction or a family law case, you should use the packets for those case types because they have detailed instructions and some answers on the forms are already filled in for you. For other types of civil appeals, the forms are available individually. You can find these forms on our appeals guide or on the Clerk of Appellate Court's website. We will look at each form individually. It would be helpful if you have copies of the forms to look at as we go through each one. The Notice of Appeal is a short form that tells the court you want to appeal a case. Let's begin with the caption. At the top left, fill in the county where your case was decided. At the top right, add the judicial district. The county and judicial district should be printed at the top of the decision you want to appeal. Moving down to the case title, fill in the blanks for petitioner and respondent the same way they appear on the decision you want to appeal. On some orders, these blanks might be labeled as plaintiff and defendant instead. Moving to the right, fill in the district court case number. This number should be on the first page of the decision you want to appeal. Below the district court case number, write the date the decision you want to appeal was entered if you are appealing a judgment, or the date you were served with the notice of filing of order if you are appealing an order. Moving down the page, you will need to fill in information below the Clerk of Appellate Court's address. If you were the petitioner in district court, check the box for petitioner. If you were the respondent, check the box for respondent. Next, if you are appealing from a judgment, you should check the box for judgment. If you are appealing from an order, check the box for order. Continuing down the page, fill in your name, address, and telephone number in the corresponding blanks. This is how the court will contact you during your appeal. If you do not complete this section, your appeal may be dismissed. Finally, be sure to sign and date the form. The statement of the case is the longest document you will need to complete to start your appeal. You will also want to refer to the detailed instructions for the statement of the case, available on our appeals guide or the Clerk of Appellate Court's website. Let's start at the top. Once again, fill in the caption just like you did on the Notice of Appeal. You will not get an appellate case number until you file your documents, so you can leave that blank. For question 1, fill in the county where your case was decided. On the second blank, write the name of the judge in your case. If you don't remember the judge's name, check the decision you are appealing. The name will usually appear on the first page, and the judge will sign the decision at the end as well. Question 2 may require you to do some basic legal research. The Minnesota State Law Library can help you find statutes and court rules, but we cannot tell you which ones might apply to your situation or otherwise give you legal advice. If you aren't sure what to write, you will need to talk to a lawyer. For a civil appeal, you will only need to complete Section 2A and Section 2D. Question 2A1 asks you to list the statute or rule that allows you to file the appeal. You can find links to many of the rules and statutes that may apply here on our appeals guide. In 2A2, if you are appealing from a judgment, fill in the date the judgment was entered. If you are appealing from an order, fill in the date you were served with the notice of filing of order. 2A3 asks you to list the statute or rule that sets your deadline to appeal. There are different court rules and statutes that set this deadline. You can find links to these court rules and statutes on our appeals guide. Questions 2A4 and 2A5 will only apply if there have been motions filed in your case since the court issued its decision. If there have not been any motions filed, you can skip these questions. If there have been, you will need to do some legal research to see if they are motions that toll or temporarily extend your deadline for appeal. You can find additional information about this question on page 2 of the instructions. You can skip over sections 2B and 2C. Question 2D1 asks if the order issued by the court is a final order or judgment. Generally, you can only appeal an order or judgment if it decides all of the issues brought by all of the parties, but there are some exceptions. If the decision is final, mark yes on question 2D1 and skip to question 3. If there are unresolved issues, read the additional information on page 3 of the instructions for more details. For question 3, fill in the type of case you are appealing. Examples might include civil, child protection, or probate. You should also list any statutes and rules that apply to your appeal. The judge may have cited to statutes or rules in the decision you are appealing, so you may want to start there. Question 4 asks you to give a brief description of the issues that were raised in district court. In other words, you should tell the court in a sentence or two what you argued in the trial court and how those issues were decided in the decision you are appealing. Question 5 asks you to give a short description of the issues you want to raise in this appeal. For questions 4 and 5, remember that these should be short answers. You will have a chance to make a detailed argument later when you file your brief. Question 6 asks you to list any related appeals. For most people, there won't be any. If that is the case, write none. If you have other related appeals, list the file number and the party names. If you aren't sure whether question 6 applies to you, you can find a detailed explanation on page 4 of the statement of the case instructions. Question 7 asks about the record of your case. The Court of Appeals does not review new information in an appeal, but they are able to review documents filed in the district court and testimony given at a hearing or trial. Generally, if you want the appeals court To consider anything that was said at a hearing or trial before the district court, you will need to order a transcript. If you are ordering a transcript, check yes for question 7A. In question 7B, choose whether you want a full transcript or a partial transcript. A partial transcript only includes what was said during part of a hearing or trial, whereas a full transcript includes everything. Question 7C asks if you have already filed a transcript with the court. If you have, check yes. If not, check no. If you answered no, indicate whether you have ordered the transcript from the court reporter in question 7D. If you are requesting a transcript, you can skip questions 7E and 7F. Question 8 asks about oral arguments. If you are representing yourself in your appeal, you will submit your arguments to the court in your brief, and there will not be an oral argument. Question 9 asks about the appellate brief. Most people who are representing themselves choose to complete an informal brief. You can find more information about appellate briefs, including links to templates, samples, and relevant rules, on our appeals guide. Question 10 asks for contact information for you and the other party, or their lawyer if they have one. Remember to fill out your contact information and sign this form, or your appeal could be dismissed. Once you have completed all of your forms, you are ready to file and serve your appeal. You will file your original documents with the Clerk of Appellate Courts, but you also need to serve the other parties in your case and give a copy to the district court. To do that, you will need to make copies of your documents. Here's what you will need. You should make 3 copies of the Notice of Appeal, 2 copies of the Statement of the Case, and 2 copies of the decision you are appealing. If there is more than one other party in your case, you will need to make additional copies of each document. Separate the originals into one pile. You will file the originals with the Clerk of Appellate Courts, along with a copy of the decision you are appealing. Separate the other documents into sets, with 1 copy each of the Notice of Appeal, Statement of the Case, and the decision you are appealing. You will have 1 extra copy of the Notice of Appeal. 1 set of these documents is for the other party in the case. If there is more than one other party, you will have an additional set for each party. 1 set of the documents is for you to keep for your own records. The extra copy of the Notice of Appeal is for you to file with the district court. Now that you have completed your copies, you are ready to file and serve your appeal. You must file and serve your appeal before your deadline for it to be considered. You have 3 options for filing your appeal with the Clerk of Appellate Courts: by hand-delivering the documents in person, by mail, or by e-filing. Choose the method that works best for you. To file your documents in person, bring them to the Clerk of Appellate Court's office in the Minnesota Judicial Center in St. Paul during normal business hours. To file your documents by mail, send them addressed to the Clerk of Appellate Courts with correct postage. Your appeal will be considered timely if you mail it by your deadline with the correct address and correct postage, even though it won't arrive on that date. You also need to serve the other parties by your deadline, or your appeal will be considered late. Service is simply making sure that the other parties in the case receive a copy of whatever you file with the court. The most common way people representing themselves serve documents is by mail. You will need to serve the other party in the case with the Notice of Appeal, Statement of the Case, and a copy of the decision you are appealing. You also need to send the Notice of Appeal to the district court. You will need to give the Court of Appeals proof you did this. You can use the Certificate of Service for this purpose. For the Certificate of Service, fill in your name on the blank where it says Appellant. Fill in the other party's name on the respondent line. If you have a Court of Appeals case number already, you can add it here. Below that, whoever physically mails the documents will complete the rest of the form. You can serve your own documents, but if someone else mails them for you, they should complete this form instead. Fill in the county, your name, and the date you mailed the documents. Next, fill in the address for the other party, or their lawyer if they have one, Repeat the process for the district court. At the bottom of this form, you will see a signature block. You should only sign this form once the documents have actually been placed in the mail. Then, write your signature, the date, the county, and the state on the appropriate lines, or if you had someone else serve your papers, have them fill out this information. Once you have completed service and filled out this form, you will file it with the Clerk of Appellate Courts using one of the methods listed earlier. You have now filed your appeal. If you have not already requested the transcript, you should contact the judge's court reporter to start the process. If you are not sure who the court reporter was, you can contact court administration in the county where your hearing took place. You will need to work with the court reporter to complete a transcript certificate. This form and detailed instructions for requesting the transcript are available on our appeals guide. Once the court reporter files the transcript, the clock starts running on your time to write your appellate brief. You can find information on appellate briefs by visiting our appeals guide. Thank you for watching this video. Remember, you can always contact the Minnesota State Law Library with questions by emailing askalibrarian@courts.state.mn.us or by phone at 651-297-7651.